Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So today is going to be a little different look at a specific aspect of World of Warcraft. I have to apologize that I am a little bit sick. I have a kind of a throat infection that it's a little more painful for me to talk, so I'm going to try and do my best. I'm going to be talking about PUGS. I'm going to be talking about how to get into PUG raids, how to get into maybe Mythic Plus runs and things like that. So PUG life is a real thing in World of Warcraft for a lot of people. A lot of people cannot commit to a schedule, cannot commit to certain days of raiding, and therefore they're not allowed to or cannot join a guild. Now, before I'm actually going to go into the semi-rant or advice video, I have to say that if you do have a choice of joining a guild rather than doing PUG raids once a week or whatever, join a guild. Guild life is much more fulfilling, basically, as a gamer, as a player of World of Warcraft. Joining a guild, joining a good guild with a lot of people who eventually might become your friends and you'll end up doing runs. I don't care if it's a guild that's progressing on the first two bosses of normal, or a guild that's progressing on the first one or two bosses on heroic. And even you knowing the fact that if you join a heroic PUG, you might even kill more bosses than your guild. The whole atmosphere in your guild is going to be a lot more rewarding. Beating bosses is going to be a lot more rewarding. The whole experience is going to be a lot better than doing something in a PUG that just go in, kill. If you don't do enough damage, you're kicked, and then I feel I've been doing a lot of PUGs because I've been trying to run a lot of viewer raids and things like that. And honestly, it's making me more toxic. It's adding more, like, it's making me more toxic as a player, because you kind of have to be. You kind of have to be toxic in a lot of the raids, in a lot of the PUG raids. So this is why I'm telling you that if you do have a choice, just join a guild. It's going to be a lot better for you, and it's going to be a lot more fun. Now, for the people who are not able to do it, time constraints and things like that, weekly PUG raids is probably the best way you experience the game, experience the PvE side of the game, experience new bosses, and your way of progressing, even though I don't feel it is even close to as rewarding as doing in the guild. But either way, right now, PUG mentality can be very toxic. PUG mentality can be very detrimental. PUG mentality can be... it's very close to what internet is and internet trolling is. I mean, half the stuff that I see in PUGs, people won't say that in real life. So it's just basically... internet allows you to be really mean and really, basically, sometimes unjustifiably. But first of all, let's talk about getting into the whole point of the video, getting into these PUG raids. Right now, 7.3, what item level should you be to enter? Example, one of the heroic Tomb of Sargeras full clears or close to full clears. I get like so many people who are 930 item level. If you're below 930 right now, it is going to be hard for you to get into a decent heroic PUG. And why is this? Like, I mean, what's the base level gear is like 915 or something. But people who are applying are going to be like 930 because of how Netherlight Crucible increased everyone's artifact weapon, overall increased players' item level, and therefore it doesn't matter what item level the raid is supposed to be, it's the demand. It's the demand and the supply. Right now, there is a huge amount of players who like killed 3 or 4 bosses who are like 930 item level. If you're below 930 item level, you better have like mythical Jaden achievement. I'm joking, but you better have some really juicy mythic achievements. Even the curve achievement is not the best way to do it. If you have a curve achievement, but if you're like 910 or if you're like 900, you're probably not going to be invited, because a lot of the times people will be like, okay, the guy knows what to do, but we're still going to be kind of carrying him. That's the kind of mentality of humans and things like that, because at the end of the day, item level is like zero indication of how good the player is, but it still is an indication. And the way that humans are built, this is an extra notch or an extra thing that's actually going to bring you inside the raid. No matter what people are going to tell you, having an extra item level over someone who's lower item level, it's going to bring you up. Even though, like, it's a terrible indication. I've come across multiple people. Actually, to be completely honest, about 70-80% of the 930s that I get signed up have about 5 or 4 heroic Tomb of Sargeras done on those characters. Now, I'm not quite sure how many of them are alts and things like that, but a lot of people, for a lot of people, item level means nothing. So that's why you have these add-ons like Mythic Plus Helper, which shows you if you don't have any tiers, if you don't have the legendaries, because you can be 940, you can be like really high item level, but don't have tier. Like, it's different not having tiers for like tanks. But for DPS and healers, tiers are a really big deal. So making sure that your character has tiers and legendaries is actually quite important, even for a lot of the pugs, depending on which pug we're talking about. If you're doing normal, you can invite anyone in normal and you're probably going to breeze through it. But heroic is actually quite different, because I've had, first of all, maidens is like pug killer. Maidens is where you actually know where people are like. Maidens is where you actually mechanics. First time mechanics come into play, where if you fail something, it's going to be a wipe. Fortunately, there's not that many bosses in Tomb of Sargeras that really punishes mechanics as much as maidens. All the other bosses are kind of like maybe a DPS healing check, but mechanic wise you don't really care. You can come in as a really high item level player who has no ideas about any of the boss fights, let's say a DPS, and you're gonna be carried through it, because any failure that you do, your DPS is not gonna be great, but if you're already in the raid and if you're not completely failing, you're still gonna stay in the raid and you're gonna be carried. Now, whether you're going to learn anything, that's yet to be decided, probably not. But just as a little thing for the people who are applying, most of the time I don't care about gear and stuff like that. Mechanics are way more important, to a certain extent. You don't want to invite someone who's 900, no legendaries, no tiers, into a heroic raid, knows exactly what to do, but still going to be like doing the tank damage as a rogue, or doing tank damage as a warlock. It's still detrimental to the raid, even though the guy knows mechanics and stuff like that. Now, there needs to be a balance between that. You need to be doing a certain amount of tanking, healing, DPS, and not the mechanics. Like I said, if you're signing up for one of these raids, first of all, I think everyone thinks that they're a special snowflake, and that no matter what my item level is, I am a great player. I don't have the gears, but I know everything. I know my class and stuff like that. Which I think everyone kind of sometimes think about that. But as a raid leader or a person who's ordering or organizing these pugs, they don't really care about a lot of the stuff. They can't see your special awesome skills. You need to have certain item levels. You need to have certain achievements. And I'm not saying those are the best way to judge your performance on how good you're going to be. It's 100% not. It is a terrible way to judge a lot of the times. The problem is, that's the only way to do it. Like, I would actually highly advise people who are joining to maybe possibly link logs from Warcraft logs or things like that. If you're like maybe a lowish DPS, lowish item level DPS, but if you link Warcraft logs to a raid leader saying like, I'm doing more than above, I'm ranking like 80% or 75% percentile, I know the mechanics and stuff like that, I feel that that's going to actually help a lot more for you to join the group. Because if you're coming up as a low item level person without an achievement, it's like never going to be invited. So just my advice for the people who are looking to join a guild, not looking to join a guild, looking to join a pug raid, try and get as high item level as possible, because believe me, it does matter. Know tactics is the most important thing. Knowing tactics is one of the most important things, especially for maidens. Maidens is definitely a pug killer, or like a boss that's really punishes your mistakes. So not knowing the mechanics for like maidens can be really punishing. You need to know your class to some basic extent. You need to know how to DPS, you need to know how to heal, you need to know how to tank. Now for pug raids, healing is actually a lot different, because in guild raids you'll be healing and your performance will be judged based on whether you're, at least in good guilds, your performance is going to be judged based on whether you saved some people, or whether you were DPSing during a specific part where there were needed to be DPS and healing wasn't that much effective. In pugs, you want to try and top meters. or try and do as many, or try to be as high as possible in the meters, purely for the fact that a lot of the times, let's say even if there's no healing to be done, if you rank below your tank or something like that, there are pug leaders who are going to look at you and say you are just not pulling your weight, even if there's no healing to be done. That's just the pug mentality. Meters are placed above everything else, and that goes for healing, even though healing meters are very differently evaluated. Just keep that in mind as a healer. Waste your freaking mana. Try and be a 0% mana, even if there's no healing to be done. Just try and rank as, like, I mean, you want to save as many people as possible, but also not look bad and get kicked by your pug leaders. Now, like I said, it all depends on the pug you're doing. It all depends on the leader and things like that. And of course, if you're applying, bring consumables. There's nothing more annoying than giving a low item level DPS a shot into a raid. Like, let's say they didn't have a good success with previous raids. You bring them in, they're a bit low on item level, and then you see they're not bringing any flasks, they're not using any potions, they're not using any food or anything like that. That is a complete tilt mode scenario for me. That's, like, I mean, that's just ridiculous. If you know you're kind of going to be carried in a raid and you don't bring consumables, that's just, it's my pet peeve kind of thing. You should never ever do things like that, because I know when my paladin was like 900 or whatever, 910, and if I got a shot, I would buy runes and things like that. I would go get runes, I would go get all the flasks and things like that, because I know I'm getting carried and I'm trying to do my best to actually provide some kind of a healing to the raid. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who doesn't bring anything, even though they're getting carried. So like I said, I actually would advise a lot of people to link logs if possible. Of course, from Warcraft logs, if you do actually have these logs. Otherwise, pug mentality is definitely not the best way to raid. There are add-ons like Mythic Plus Helper, like I mentioned, that actually allows raid leaders to see how many bosses you've killed, how many tiers you have, how many legendaries you have, and things like that. Like I said, if you know you're capable of doing any of these bosses, but you're not getting an invite, get as high item level as possible, get Warcraft logs, link them to the raid leaders, try and get achievements. Of course, achievements sometimes are not a great way to do it, and achievements sometimes can be really hard to get. I would advise linking logs and just actually get to know the people, get to know the raid leaders, or the pug leaders, and they will know your capability, they will know what you're capable of, they will know of your mechanics, if you know how to play, if you know how the boss works, and that's one of the best ways to do pugs. But like I mentioned at the start of the video, before this gets like an hour long or something, don't do pug live. Try and get a guild. Doesn't matter what kind of progress guild. It's going to be more fun. You're going to build relationships. You're going to progress as a team rather than just a solo player in a game full of strangers. So let me know how you feel about this little video of pugs and pug mentality. Let me know your experiences about joining guilds, or let me know your experience about joining pugs. Pug raids and Mythic Plus. Let me know how you feel about all of this, the whole aspect of pugs in World of Warcraft. And thank you for watching this little rant / guide, and I'll see you in my next video.